The grapes of ancient Greece. Geography. Greece is a country located in Europe. It is a peninsula which extends into the Mediterranean Sea and is surrounded by seas on three sides. Greece is extremely mountainous. Three-fourths or 80% of the land is covered in mountains, and there were no major or dependable rivers. Because of this difficult environment, they made many adaptations to be able to live here. They relied on the seas for travel and trade instead of trading by land, and they grew crops that they were able to grow in the mountainous terrain, like grapes and olives, which they used to make wine and olive oil. When they ran short of farmland to feed their growing population, they started colonies all around the Mediterranean Sea and Asia Minor and grew crops and exported them back to mainland Greece. They also raised animals which were good at grazing on the mountainous terrain, like goats. Religion played an important part in the lives of the ancient Greeks. They believed there were many gods that controlled the natural world, as well as influencing the actions of human beings. They believed their gods had human form and human emotions. They believed the gods would take care of them when they died if they showed them love and respect. After death, they believed the soul went on a journey to a place called the underworld, which they called Hades. When someone died in ancient Greece, they would be washed and a coin would be placed in their mouth. The coin would pay the ferryman who took the dead across the rivers in the different parts of the underworld. People who did good would go to a paradise called Elysian Fields after death. People who did evil would go to Tartarus and be cruelly punished forever. Achievements. The ancient Greeks may have lived over 2,000 years ago, but they left a lasting legacy that still affects our culture and way of life. The Greek city-state of Athens first introduced the world to the idea of a true democracy. Citizens were allowed to vote for their leaders and on new laws. Some of history's greatest philosophers were ancient Greeks, including Plato, Aristotle, and Socrates. Today, philosophy students still study the writings and teachings of Greek philosophers. The Greeks invented the Western drama, where written work is performed by actors. Greek theater introduced the ideas of the comedy and the tragedy. Greek architecture has been imitated throughout history. The Romans copied many of the Greek ideas and their buildings. Today, many government buildings are built in the Greek classical style, including the U.S. Capitol building and the U.S. Supreme Court building in Washington, D.C. The Greeks also made many advancements in the areas of science and technology. They excelled in the field of mathematics, and we still use many of their theories and ideas today. The ancient Greeks loved athletics and sports. Their legacy is exemplified in the modern-day Olympic Games, which began with the ancient Greeks in 776 BC. Greek art heavily influenced Western art throughout history. The Greeks are most known for their realistic sculpture, which tried to capture the beauty and perfection in the subject. Politics. There was no central government in ancient Greece. Ancient Greece was not one country with one ruler. It was never an empire. People lived in independent city-states, and each city-state ruled itself. There were four main forms of government used in ancient Greece by various city-states. Some city-states were ruled by a king or a monarchy. In a monarchy, the power to rule rests in the hands of a single person, historically a king or a queen. The word monarch comes directly from two Greek words, monos and archon, translated to mean one and to rule. In a monarchy, when the king dies, the power to rule falls to the oldest son. Some city-states ruled under the government of oligarchy. In an oligarchy, the power to rule rests in the hands of a small group of leaders. Typically, an oligarchy will have just a few people, but all will share the power evenly. The word oligarchy shares the same suffix as the previous form of government, archon, but its prefix comes directly from the Greek word oligos. In English, oligos is translated to mean few. Oligarchy translates to mean few to rule. Some city-states were taken over by a tyrant. In a tyranny form of government, the power to rule rests in the hands of a single person who controls almost everything. The word tyranny comes directly from the Greek word tyrannos. In English, tyrannos is translated to mean illegitimate. A tyranny and a monarchy both have one ruler, however, they are not the same. In a monarchy, power transfers through hereditary means. That means rule is passed from father to son. A tyrant takes power by force through an unconstitutional way, usually through the murder of the king. The first democracy form of government started in Athens, Greece. In a democracy, the power to rule rests in the hands of all the citizens. To say that all people have a say in democracy is inaccurate. Only those who are considered to be citizens are given the right to vote. Regardless, the word democracy comes from two Greek words, demos, which means people, and kratia, which means to rule. Literally, democracy translates to people rule. A democracy means that citizens are given the right to vote, and a country or city-state has the power to determine who qualifies to be a citizen. In Athens, the vast majority of people were restricted from voting. Only adult males who had completed their military training had the right to vote. Economy. The economy of ancient Greece was complex and diverse, shaped by a variety of factors including agriculture, trade, manufacturing, and slavery. Agriculture was the backbone of the ancient Greek economy. The Greeks relied heavily on farming for their survival. In fact, farming was the most common form of work for ancient Greek people and played a significant part of the ancient Greek economy. Trade was an important part of the ancient Greek economy as well. They traded with other civilizations such as the Persians, Egyptians, and Phoenicians. They traded a variety of goods, including agricultural products such as grain, wine, and olive oil, and manufactured goods such as pottery, metalwork, and textiles. They also traded luxury goods such as jewelry, precious stones, and perfumes. They traded by both land and sea. Manufacturing was another important part of the ancient Greek economy. They were skilled craftsmen and made a variety of products, including pottery, sculpture, and metalwork. They also made clothing and shoes and built ships and other vehicles. Pottery was one of the most significant forms in ancient Greece. Greek pottery was known for its high quality and was exported throughout the Mediterranean. The economy of ancient Greece was also characterized by a high degree of slavery. Slaves were used to perform a variety of tasks, including farming, manufacturing, and trade. They were owned by both individuals and the state and were considered to be property rather than people. Social classes of ancient Greece. The social classes of ancient Greece were important to Greek society. Ancient Greek society was divided into several social classes, each with its own unique privileges, responsibilities, and limitations. The Greeks believed that a person's status was determined by their birth. The upper class, or aristocracy, consisted of wealthy landowners and high ranking officials. These individuals had a high social status and enjoyed a great deal of privilege and power. They were often born into privilege and enjoyed a life of wealth, power, and prestige. They held great influence over government and dominated the highest offices in government. The middle class consisted of small farmers, artisans, and merchants. These individuals were not wealthy, but they were generally well respected. They were the free citizens who owned their own land. The lower class consisted of the poorest members of society, including laborers and slaves. These individuals had very little social and economic power and were often at the bottom of the social hierarchy. Overall, the social class system in ancient Greece was marked by significant inequality, with the upper class enjoying a great deal of privilege and power, while the lower class had very little. In ancient Greek society, women were not treated as equal to men. They were not allowed to participate in politics and were expected to focus on their roles as wives and mothers. Women were not allowed to attend schools and were not given education. That's a little bit about the geography, religion, achievements, politics, economy, and social class structure of ancient Greece.